Story 1. My life now is a quiet suburban symphony. A two-story house, spacious enough for my husband and me, and even a bustling crowd of guests, stands as a testament to the peace we've built. At 32, with my husband, 37, by my side, and a baby fluttering within me, it feels like a dream I once thought unreachable. 7 years ago, at 25, my world shattered. I lost my soulmate, my best friend. She was the anchor, the laughter, the one who made everything make sense. Even now, the mere thought of her can unravel me, so I'll spare the details, though I could speak of her endlessly. Her sudden, freak accident plunged me into a darkness I never knew existed. Grief became a heavy cloak, and soon, I was drinking to numb the unbearable ache. That period was a blur of self-destruction. The alcohol became my constant companion, stripping away everything I held dear. My apartment, my friends, my family, they all vanished. My parents, consumed by shame, refused to let me stay with them. My sister, with a flimsy excuse about a cramped apartment, turned her back too. I was utterly alone, adrift in a sea of hopelessness. But somewhere, deep within that despair, a flicker ignited. 6 years and countless AA meetings later, I emerged. Sober, scarred but stronger, I began to piece myself back together. I never looked back at the family who had abandoned me. Instead, I poured my energy into healing, into finding myself again. And then, I found him, the love of my life, my husband, who saw beyond my past and embraced my future. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm, until a month ago. A ghost from the past, my sister, found my new number through an old friend. Her voice, hesitant at first, then pleading, explained her plight. Job loss, a brutal divorce, and the loss of her own home, apparently, the one our parents had bought for her, which she'd sold to live with her ex. She wanted to stay with us. My refusal was swift and firm, the bitterness of her past abandonment still sharp in my memory. I reminded her of how she had left me to drown. Then, last week, the past didn't just call, it arrived on my doorstep. My parents and sister, somehow having tracked down my address, stood there, demanding I open my home to her. The air crackled with unspoken history. My sister, in a desperate bid to justify her past cruelty, revealed a secret. She had been pregnant after my best friend died. She claimed she hadn't told me because of my grief, and that she feared my alcoholism would somehow push her into the same abyss, harming her unborn child. She pleaded, saying her situation was different now. She had kids, whose custody her ex-husband held, and she needed my help to get her life back on track. The discussion escalated, voices rising, old wounds tearing open. The tension became unbearable, and I had no choice but to call the police. Now, the idea of a restraining order looms large in my mind, a desperate measure for peace. My husband, bless his heart, urges me to let my rage go and help my family. But how can I? I'm pregnant. Hormones surging, every emotion amplified. The anger feels justified, a protective barrier around the fragile new life I've built. I'm torn, exhausted, and desperately need an outside perspective. Some advice from someone who doesn't carry the weight of my history. Story 2. It was a whirlwind weekend, starting with the joyous, tear-filled blur of my mother's wedding on Saturday. She was radiant, and honestly, seeing her so happy brought a lump to my throat. Her new husband seemed like a genuinely good guy, kind to her, and pretty chill with me. He even had a 13-year-old daughter, a sweet kid from his previous marriage, and they shared 50-50 custody. Everything felt right. But Sunday, a subtle shift in the air turned into a full-blown storm. It started innocently enough, with my younger cousin, who was only 7 when my dad died, asking if I was going to call my mom's new husband Dad. I chuckled. Of course not. I already had a dad, and I was an adult by the time he came into Mom's life. It was a simple, honest answer. That's when the atmosphere curdled. My mom and her sister, my aunt, cornered me. Their voices, usually warm, were sharp with accusation. They started laying into me, telling me I needed to stop bringing up my father in front of my mother's new husband. The reason? He was jealous. Jealous. Of a dead man. I stared at them, dumbfounded. His ex-wife was alive and well, someone he saw every other weekend to exchange their daughter, but a literal corpse was the source of his supposed insecurity. "I don't do it deliberately," I protested, my voice cracking slightly. "My father was my father for 20 years. It's only natural that he comes up in conversation sometimes, especially with my younger cousin who barely remembers him." My aunt, however, wasn't having it. She launched into a tirade, her words a stinging whip. "Your dad was important to you, but he's not important to anybody else anymore," she declared, her voice rising. "You should let go and move on instead of talking about him, because everyone else is." That was it. That was the line. Her words, so cold and dismissive of the man who had been my world for 2 decades, shattered my composure. Tears welled up, blurring her furious face. I couldn't speak, couldn't even look at them. The rest of the day was a silent, tear-filled haze. Now, I'm sitting here, the echoes of their accusations still ringing in my ears, wondering, am I really the jerk for occasionally mentioning my dad? And is it truly fathomable that my mother's new husband could be jealous of someone who's no longer alive? Story 3. The farmer's market in my hometown was always a vibrant place, a cacophony of cheerful chatter and local vendors. It was supposed to be a relaxing visit with my dad, a break from my late 20s life. But then, it happened again. My dad, bless his heart, is a good man. Kind, well-intentioned, but with a habit that grates on my nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. His hearing isn't what it used to be, which means his already booming voice has amplified with age. And when he talks about people, he uses their full, government names, as if he's addressing a public forum. So, my friend John Jackson just bought a lake house up in Minnesota. He'd bellow, completely oblivious to the grocery shopper's browse nearby. Or, my neighbor Kelly Garcia just had her first grandchild. It's rarely anything scandalous, just everyday updates. But in a medium-sized town like ours, there's a very real chance someone overhears and jumps to conclusions, imagining some juicy gossip where there is none. All they hear is a loud pronouncement of Ben Smith without any context. This time, at the farmer's market, he was practically shouting about his friend opening a new bar, complete with the friend's full name. I finally couldn't take it anymore. Leaning in, I tried to make my voice heard over the market din. "Dad," I said gently, "you should probably either talk quieter or maybe just use first names when we're out in public." I explained my reasoning, how people might overhear and misinterpret. He just looked at me, a familiar smirk playing on his lips. "You're such a sourpuss," he retorted, shaking his head. "It's disrespectful to police me." I walked away from the conversation feeling a mix of frustration and doubt. Was I being overly sensitive? Was I wrong to ask him to change a habit that, while annoying, wasn't born of malice? I just wanted to avoid potential misunderstandings and protect people's privacy. But according to him, I was the one out of line. Story 4. My husband's friend, let's call him Leo, has a peculiar habit. He uses our address as his personal mailing hub. For the first 3 months or so, I didn't mind. I figured it was a temporary thing, maybe he was between places or something. But Leo has his own house, and yet, the mail keeps coming. The real turning point was a few weeks ago. Something important arrived for him, something he apparently needed ASAP. He asked my husband to bring it to him. My husband, being the kind-hearted soul he is, agreed. But then, after a few drinks out with friends, he completely forgot the letter. The next morning, a Saturday, our peaceful 6 a.m. was shattered. Leo started calling. Not just once, but over a dozen times, each ring a piercing, passive-aggressive jab. My husband, still groggy, eventually answered. He then had to get up, retrieve the letter, and essentially play delivery service to Leo's doorstep. It was an incredibly unpleasant way to start the weekend, and I told my husband, point blank, that we weren't the post office and Leo needed to get his mail sent elsewhere. My husband, bless his incredibly kind heart, just brushed it off, saying I was overreacting. I dropped it, for the moment. But today, my patience officially ran out. I found not 1, not 2, but 4 new pieces of mail addressed to Leo. Among them, a brand new bank card and something thick and official looking from the Social Security office. I haven't even told my husband yet, because I know he'll just dutifully deliver them, and this absurd cycle will continue. I'm staring at these envelopes, and I am so incredibly tempted to just mark them return to sender. It feels like the only way to make a point. But then the nagging question creeps in: would I be the jerk if I did that? Story 5. The days already felt long, stretched thin between my full-time job and the commute. At 21, I was trying to navigate adulthood, contributing to the household bills at my mom's place, where I still lived. My sister, 36 and a new mom to a 5-month-old, was just returning from maternity leave. I adore my nephew and visit whenever I can, but her house is a trek, meaning I usually don't get home until 9 p.m. That 9 p.m. curfew for showers at my mom's place, while a point of contention given I pay for utilities, is something I try to respect to keep the peace. So, when my sister asked if I could come over every day after work to help with the baby, so she could shower and get things done, my stomach tightened. I gently explained my predicament, how late I'd get home, the inevitable clash with my mom's rules, and honestly, how utterly exhausted I am after a full day's work. Daily trips felt like an impossible demand on my already drained self. She initially said she understood, but that understanding quickly evaporated. Her voice rose, tinged with a bitterness that stung. She launched into a personal attack, bringing up my past struggles with employment, implying I was unreliable and couldn't hold down a job. I was stunned. I was just trying to explain my limitations, but she took it as a personal affront. Now, a heavy awkwardness hangs between us. The thought of going to her house, even to see my beloved nephew, fills me with dread. It's not like she's without support. She has a husband and in-laws who could easily step in. It feels unfair to place such a monumental expectation on me. Despite all of this, the worry gnaws at me. Will my family see me as selfish? Uncaring? Am I truly the jerk for saying no to an everyday commitment that would push me past my breaking point? Story 6. My work week is a grind, leaving me with just 2 precious days off, Monday and Saturday. Saturdays are my sacred mornings, my desperate attempt to reclaim some sleep until at least 10 a.m. It rarely works, but a girl can dream. The culprit. My boyfriend, also 34, who conveniently has weekends off. The moment his eyes flutter open, his hand instinctively reaches for his phone. He's practically tethered to it, unable to complete a single action without first scrolling through Instagram. And here's the kicker, he's hard of hearing, so those Instagram videos blare at full volume, echoing through our bedroom. It's a familiar pattern. He wakes early, on his own accord, and within seconds, the tinny sounds of social media fill the quiet morning air. I've told him, repeatedly, that it wakes me up, that it's a problem, that I'm not getting the rest I desperately need. His response is always the same: it was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that. But how many times can it be a mistake before it becomes a choice? I've laid it out for him, explaining that a repeated action, despite knowing the consequences, isn't an accident. Especially when I suffer from insomnia, making sleep a monumental effort in the first place. This particular Saturday, to add insult to injury, I'd unexpectedly started my period the day before, leaving me even more exhausted and irritable. The frustrating part is, he has an office downstairs, a perfectly suitable space where he could indulge his Instagram habit without disturbing me. We've even had break conversations earlier in the week, serious talks about our recurring issues. Yet, all he offers are apologies, empty words that never translate into changed behavior. I'm utterly exhausted from this cyclical argument, from going over the same ground again and again. Is it me? Am I the one overreacting, or is he the problem here? Story 7. A few months ago, I landed a nannying gig with a fantastic family. The pay was great, I needed the money, and I genuinely love working with kids. It felt like a perfect fit. Almost immediately, though, I noticed the 3-year-old's less than ideal eating habits. She was constantly demanding snacks, chips, crackers, chocolates, lollipops, before meals and would throw a fit if refused. Her mom, surprisingly laid back about it, told me it was normal and to just let her eat whatever, as long as I tried to get some actual food into her too. I decided to try a different approach. With her mom's hesitant blessing, go ahead and try, I implemented a new rule: No snacks before breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Once she finished her meal, she could have any snack she wanted. And honestly, it worked wonders. At first, there were the predictable tantrums, more performative wails than genuine cries, but she quickly adapted. She started eating proper meals, a stark contrast to before. For instance, breakfast went from a struggle to get one egg down because she'd already filled up on junk, to happily devouring 2 hard-boiled eggs, sausage, a glass of milk, and some bread. Naturally, with fuller tummies, her snack consumption dropped significantly, even though I consistently offered them after meals. The other day, my sister, who's 25, bought the little one some chocolate, right before lunch. She went to open it, and I instinctively stepped in, reminding her of the no snacks before lunch rule. My mom, who was also there, immediately chimed in, telling me I couldn't put her on a diet because I wasn't her mother. She called it an asshole move to control someone else's child like that. I stood my ground, explaining that I'd rather be an asshole and have the child full and healthy than let her ruin her stomach and eating habits so young. My mom, however, doubled down, insisting it wasn't my place and that if her own mother allowed snacks whenever, I should too. I know my intentions are good, and seeing her eat healthier makes me incredibly happy. But my mom's harsh words, particularly the putting her on a diet accusation, made me second-guess myself. Was I truly being an asshole by trying to establish healthier boundaries with her food? Story 8. My best friend has always been an incredible mother. She had her son young and later adopted her niece at birth, raising both kids on her own, even working 3 jobs at times to give them the best life possible. She spoiled them, rightfully so, in my eyes, making sure they never went without, even buying each of them their own PS5 so they wouldn't have to share. I've always admired her dedication. But things took a dark turn with her adopted daughter. At 17, the girl spiraled, stealing my friend's car and purse without a license, running off to live with her biological mom, my friend's sister, dropping out of school and eventually getting pregnant. Despite the betrayal, my friend never pressed charges and continued to support her. We all rallied around the daughter during her pregnancy. My friend threw her a huge baby shower, and we put so much love into making it special. But the girl spent most of the party outside smoking joints, then returned only to give a cringeworthy speech, thanking her biological mom by name while referring to my friend, the woman who raised her, by her first name. It was a slap in the face, but my friend just swallowed the hurt and kept providing for her, buying double of everything so the baby would have what it needed at both homes. For a brief moment after the baby was born, it seemed like things were improving. The daughter started calling my friend mom again and let her help with the newborn. But that sweetness lasted only a month. Soon, the girl was back to her old ways, posting on Snapchat about partying, begging for drugs, and even laughing over her friends calling in bomb threats to a school and mall. I only saw this because she forgot to block me. I couldn't take it anymore and removed her from my social media. Then came the breaking point. My friend wanted to throw her daughter an extravagant 18th birthday party. Big theme, lavish gifts, the whole celebration. I knew I couldn't sit there and watch this girl, who had shown nothing but disrespect, be rewarded yet again. So I gently told my friend, "I love you, but I can't come. I can't stand by and watch her treat you this way, and honestly, I don't want to be around her after everything she's done." I wished them a great party and hoped her daughter would appreciate it. But my friend hasn't spoken to me in 2 months. Was I wrong? I get that a mother's love is unconditional, but at what point does support become enabling? I couldn't pretend to celebrate someone who has caused so much pain, but did speaking up cost me my friendship? Should I have just stayed silent and let it play out?